Now, okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're going to get into this interview with Dr. Gaston. I'll let Brittany introduce herself, and we're just going to go into a little bit of her journey, life after physical therapy school, and just the journey to get towards PT. All right, so I'll go ahead and let her begin. All right, take it away.
Hi guys. So my name is Brittany Gaston. I'm from 28, and I recently just passed my boards for the January cycle, and I just started work
Wow.
today. And I went to Howard University for my doctorate, and I went to Florida A&M for undergrad.
Nice, nice. And the people at Hampton, I was a former Hampton person, so we would say we're the real HU. They say they're the real HU, so that's a little ongoing thing. But so FAMU undergrad, and then to DC for your doctorate. Did you always know
Yes.
you wanted to go to Howard University to do your doctorate?
Not necessarily. I kind of fell in love with being in DC, and
Mm,
then it was kind of, well, whoever chooses me, then I'm going to go there. Because it's kind of hard to get into PT
yeah.
school. So I kind of wanted to stay home as well. I wanted to go to Georgia State, but they just kind of had a lot of things that you had to like do a checklist, and a lot of those I didn't meet. Even though I had a good connection with like the people on board, it was just kind of like they were a numbers game. So I just kind of went wherever they accepted me.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you said you wanted to stay home. Is Georgia or Detroit home for you?
Well, Detroit is home, like where I was born, where I went
Uh-huh.
to school. But my dad has been in Atlanta since like the
Okay.
'90s, so Atlanta was like my second home, and I went back there after I finished undergrad. So
Okay. Makes sense. Now, what inspired you? Physical therapy is it's changed a lot, of course, over the last 20 years. From going to it was what I mean, bachelor's, master's, and now of course it's a doctorate. And they're trying to get independent
mhm.
practice and stuff. But were you one of those people when you were a lot younger and it wasn't as, I guess, prestigious as it is now? You can call you Dr. Gaston, but before that, I mean, were you thinking about going to physical therapy school, or was this something that you figured out a little bit later on once you started college?
No, it was definitely
Okay.
later in college. I originally wanted to do be a pediatrician,
Oh,
because but then I was like, well, if I like kids, I could just open a daycare or do something that I involve myself with kids a lot. So when my sister got injured when we were playing softball, she broke her ankle the first time. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then when I had my own injury, my sophomore year in college, I was playing softball as well. Then that's kind of what solidified me wanting to do PT.
It's okay. Gotcha. So that was in what do you say, high school?
Yeah, the first time I was introduced to it was high
Gotcha.
school. Still wasn't really sold until I've had my own injury.
Gotcha. And when you got introduced to it, did you? Because I know for me, I was 14 years old. I was just one of those kids that was always just running around doing a whole bunch of extra stuff, and I knew I didn't want to be sitting in the cubicle. I said, "This is probably one of the
Hmm.
worst things that could happen to a human being." You put them in a
Yeah.
cubicle at a desk. You put the little, blinders on, and they can't see people. And not that I'm the most extroverted person. I just said I don't want to be in a cubicle working somewhere. I feel like I'm wasting my life. And no matter how much you pay me, right? So I started
Hmm.
looking into jobs that would require, me to be up and about, maybe be doing a little bit more active. What was your
Hmm.
did you go and look at the job descriptions? Like that's what I personally did. I said, what job, because I like fitness as well. I said, what job can keep
Yeah.
me on my feet a little bit, doing different things. What was your process once you decided you wanted to do it?
I mean, for sure, I knew that I couldn't just be like sitting down because I get bored easily.
Hmm.
So I knew that I wanted to do like the medical field. So I was just kind of like, what can keep me like entertained or what can keep me like active? And because I love to work out too, but I didn't really get that like inspiration of like working out until like I transferred to FAMU like in 2012. And I started really taking care of myself and seeing like how PT can kind of be intertwined in that. So I was like, okay, well, I could be a trainer, but then I kind of want to do more as well. So,
Gotcha, gotcha. So let's get into the, I guess, the nitty gritty of things. All right, you picked it. You picked your career. Everything's bright and rainbows. We have all these big goals that we want to do. And then college hits. What was your undergrad major?
so I started off at Clark Atlanta, and for 2 years, and that's where I played softball. And I was a bio major,
Ah,
and
okay.
I was like, I don't want to do anything past biology, really.
Mm-hmm.
So once I graduate, or once I transferred to FAMU, then I was pre PT allied health,
Okay.
and that kind of like solidified. Okay, this is what I really want to do, and it was very interesting. It kind of like kept me on my toes to kind of like get into different things. Whereas biology was just straight science. Like I didn't really have an outlet, if you will.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, with that biology major, and when did you? Because I know you were initially saying you wanted to do pediatrician. When did you decide that you know what I really want to do? Because I was the same way. I wanted to be something called a PMNR doctor, or physical medicine and rehabilitation specialist, or physiatrist. So that was like
Oh,
on the far end. I said, okay, I'm gonna either do this or physical therapy. I went and I actually didn't make that final decision until I was pretty much graduating, and then they also added biochemistry to the MCAT, and I was like, yeah, it's okay.
yeah,
I'm not really that passionate about this. But when was that?
right.
When you were like, boom, I'm definitely gonna um do physical therapy versus pediatrician.
Um, well, really, when I turned 18, I was just like, okay, well, I don't really get to see the pediatrician after 18. So I was like, well, I feel like that you get cut off. And then when I was like thinking about all of the science that I had to do when I was at Clark, I was just like, I don't necessarily know that I want to go to medical school, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that I want to be in healthcare because I kind of struggle with like chemistry and then having to do like physics. And it was just like scary because at Clark, they only had one professor for all of those like core classes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you didn't pass that class, like you had to wait till the next year.
Oh, dang.
So it was just kind of like
So it put you back a whole year.
I wouldn't say it put me back a
No, I'm
year,
saying
but
it
it
would
was just
have if you
oh
didn't.
yeah, it would have,
Oh
yeah.
wow.
And
Oof.
if I didn't make the transition to like do PT and like go to FAM, I would have been placed back even further because I didn't know like the PT cast, the curriculum, and like the classes that you had to take to be applicable for school. So that was kind of another thing that I had to put in play. Like, am I even on the right track
Mm-hmm.
to pursue like PT?
Okay, got you. All right, so let's get into the I call it behind the curtains. It's the little bit of the the part that maybe people don't like to talk about, because one thing I've noticed about social media and the internet is a lot of people want to post their highlights. I talked about
Right.
your journey a little bit before. I told you a little bit about mine's, and there's nothing really pretty about this journey, right? For some people it goes really smooth, but for others not so much. So in college and after college, once you got into DPT school, what were the two most challenging parts of this journey? So when you were in college, let's say maybe you going from Clark Atlanta to FAMU, and doing that. What was the hardest part in college once you decided you wanted to be PT, and then once you got to PT school, what was some of the most challenging, one of the most challenging things you would say about that process?
So going from Clark to FAM wasn't really that stressful. Only because I had a really good mentor, and they kind of talked me through like program and like what to expect. But I would say the most challenging thing, probably like leaving college, was knowing that I was at the top of my class and I still couldn't get into their program. So it was kind of difficult for me to, like, that was kind of an L for me. And even like the dean over the school of physical therapy, I was asking, why haven't you, applied? Like, you graduated at the top of our class and what have you. But my advisor was just like, well, you wouldn't really be a good candidate because of like my GRE scores and all that. And if I would have applied right after I graduated, I would have gotten in, because after that they kind of switched and did like a numbers game. Like, if you don't have these qualifications, it's an automatic no.
Mm.
So that's probably the biggest thing, like leaving undergrad knowing that I couldn't go to that PT school. Um, and then I would say like even leaving PT school or leaving undergrad and trying to get into PT school was hard too. Because I took a 2 year gap.
Okay.
So um, I was on the path of like, okay, well, whoever accepts me, that's where I'm going to go. And I actually went to DC. I was really going for like a girls trip, but I had just contacted I
Okay.
director, and I said like, hey, I'm going to be in town. Like, do you mind if I, have a talk with you about getting into PT school? And on spot, they just gave me an interview, and it was probably 11 o'clock that
Oh
night.
wow.
They were like, well, you have to prepare for this and that. And I was just asked about my sister, like, well, can we do a double interview? And they put her on the wait list, but they ended up letting us come in there. And I went straight from the airport to Howard to
Sheesh.
do my interview. And they had us do like a 30-minute PowerPoint. And we just had to go in there like cold.
Wow.
So, so that was kind of one of the hardest and scariest things for me, because I'm like, well, I'm literally going on here just bare, like trying to make it into PT school. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I, ended up getting in, but I would say going through my entire PT school was very, very traumatic, stressful, because there were a lot of barriers that were placed in my way. Just kind of like doing it just because, and I couldn't really control or prepare for that. So those were kind of some of the things that I had to kind of just keep my head down and keep it moving. But it just seemed like every time when I was like, on a good path, then something would like get in my way
Wow.
because of that. So
Now, is this so Howard, and they are, when I was applying to Hampton, I was looking at Howard as well, and Howard has a lot of requirements to get in. The
yeah.
video you have to make saying why you want to be in PT school and all of that. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying because you took a leap of faith, if you want to say, and you just opened your mouth and asked, you were able to
Mm-hmm.
bypass pretty much all of that and then just get that interview on spot.
Well, not necessarily. Like, I had already done all of
Oh,
that,
you
like,
had.
yeah,
Okay.
PT cast, but it was just a long process for them to like get back to me to say whether I was going to get an interview or not. Because even in my first year applying, when I saw all the requirements, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that, and
Yeah.
I passed like the first time.
Yeah.
So I just kind of did everything, and then I was like, well, I might as well ask because I'm going to be there. So
Right. Right. And tell us a little bit. We're gonna jump forward a little bit. How was that first day? Your first day of orientation. And guys, I'm catching her on a first literal. I mean, this is perfect timing. Her first day of orientation as a physical therapist, working outpatient, inpatient,
Outpatient.
outpatient. Okay, how was that?
For work or for school?
Just your orientation for today. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
today. It was very long. Going through documentation, filling out different paperwork, but it was very calming because I had a very good staff and they really welcomed me with like open arms, and kind of reassured me that everything was going to be fine and I was going to be able to grow as a therapist, and they were there to help me, get to the next level of my career and things like that. So it was pretty good, but just kind of long.
Gotcha. And what state are you practicing in?
Georgia.
Georgia. Oh, so you're back in Georgia. Now,
Hmm.
for the MPTE, tell us a little bit
Hmm.
about how you studied for the MPTE and that process after you got out of PT school. How was that process then? You graduate, it's kind of like with college. You graduate and it's like you're on top of the world. And then the next day it's like, oh, hold on. I got 6 months and then Sally Mae's going to start calling. I got to find a job. I got to find a way to pay these bills back. How did you feel once you graduated Howard University, and then you had to now go and you were, I guess, basically now the boards are ahead of you and your whole life, if you want to say as you know it, is ahead of you. How was that feeling?
I mean, I was relieved because I was done with everything like classwork, clinicals,
Mm,
everything. And I had a kind of a quick turnaround to get everything prepared for boards because you have to do the application and then with your jurisdiction, whichever state that you're going to practice in, and then get everything for the finances with paying for the boards and everything like that. So that was a little bit stressful, going through that process. And once I got everything with that situated, I used what's called the Final Frontier. And it's like an 11-week course. And they kind of go through the need to know for the exams. And they have videos and readings that you can kind of go off of to help you study and get all of the material that you pretty much would need to pass the exam. And I'm not the best standardized test taker, but that was very helpful for me because it gave me organization. Because if I'm kind of like going off of, oh, I'll study this today, study that, I don't have like a designated thing that I'm looking at. I'm just kind of like fishing for things to study. So that kind of gave me a lot of like closure, and I was able to really sit down and really focus with that program.
Final Frontier. Yeah, you are like the third person that I've talked to that's
Hmm.
taken an MPT that's mentioned Final Frontier. So I'm gonna have to look into
Yeah.
that once I get to that stage. Final Frontier. Okay. And is that a totally online? Is it like digital where you're on a computer, or do you have a book and it's kind
Yeah.
of hybrid?
So it is online, and they do have the different packages that you can do. You can do live or you can do the study bundle.
Okay.
I did the study just because I just wasn't really. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do live because you had to go on at that time, and you can go back and look at it. But doing the study bundle, I knew when they were going to post the videos, and it gave me like kind of a day to go over something else before they posted the actual video for that day.
Gotcha.
So that just worked.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Cool. So through this journey, what would you say? And different people can do different things, but I personally say when I say so, people say they take a L, right? And when I say that, you could either look at it as a loss or a lesson. It could be either, right? But you pick your definition of an L, and what would you say some of the biggest L's that you took with? Let's start with undergrad.
Um, I wish that I would have started at FAMU just because I had a better foundation there, and they had my major for what I wanted to do. But I was still in between: do I want to be a pediatrician or do I want to be a PT? So, and I wouldn't have had to play catch up as much when I got to FAM. It was a smooth transition with changing majors, but it was also like they kind of loaded my schedule, so that was kind of difficult to kind of readjust to. So I would say like starting at the school that I knew had my major and doing things that would prepare me for graduate school.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about the doctorate when you got to the doctorate level.
Um, I
We can
I'm
keep it
trying to.
politically correct.
Yeah, I was gonna
Slightly,
say.
slightly.
Yes, like um, I would definitely say I honestly wish that I had gone to a different school.
Hey, talk about it.
I know, yeah, I know that with life you're gonna have different obstacles, and nothing is gonna be given to you. But I just really took a lot of losses while I was there, and kind of involuntarily. Like I can take accountability for the things that okay, I could have done better on this. I could have done better on that. But when someone holds your fate, and then you still have to answer to them, and they're constantly putting barriers in your way, that was something that I couldn't like recover from.
Mm,
Um, I was always taught to keep your head down, study
right.
and do what you do to get to the next course.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is always big on never let someone else make the decision for you or to hold your fate.
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever you need to do to prepare yourself so that doesn't happen. And when I can't really control that, that's where it kind of got really sticky for me.
Like the politics. There's
So
politics involved. Yeah.
yeah. So, and that's something that I really couldn't, because I was always a good student. Like, I've never really had a problem with school. So, kind of having
You better than me.
to battle, right? So, yeah, I couldn't really battle them and then, like, schoolwork and
Yeah.
all that. It was just a lot for me to handle. So,
So it sounds like, and we'll be open here because part of this,
yeah.
um, this platform is I want people to be transparent so people don't,
Hmm.
we're not here to crap on these schools, right? I'm a product of HBCUs, right? Oakwood
Right.
University in Huntsville, Alabama. It's a small Christian HBCU. Then I went to Hampton for my DPT. I started there anyway. Um, Unfortunately, I've seen a trend with certain, HBCUs. Even though I love it, there's positives to it. But then when it comes to administrative stuff, because I feel you on it. When I was supposed to go back, medical leave of absence, after my second semester there, um, I got screwed. Straight. I mean,
Mhm.
so I understand because it's like, hey, oh, you got to do this to come back. You do this, and then you wait a whole year, and then when you come
Yeah.
back, it's like, oh no,
And I've seen
totally
that
different.
happen.
I was
Yeah.
like, hold on. Oh,
Yeah.
I should have got this in writing. That's why they say get stuff in writing.
Right.
So then I'm going and transferring to a whole other school, and they still got my $50,000. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, I understand that. I understand that. And there's some things that you cannot control. You control the controllables, and you just try to adjust with the ones that are not as controllable. But how do you think that process? And I feel some type of way too. I'm on my third PT school, so I understand, right? But let's try to, if you would say, what is something positive that you might have gotten out of that experience, if any? If it's none, just say, hey, it just added more stress to my life, and then it just what it is. But do you feel like you got anything positive out of that experience? Do you feel like it made you more adaptable, adjustable, more resilient, tougher? What do you think you gleaned from that?
Yeah, I'd say the only thing that I can like take from that is it allowed me to really look into myself and say, okay, what are the things that you really need to like work on or like elevate yourself on? Like I can say towards the end of like PT school, I kind of was a little bit like lazy and partially because like my CI, he wasn't really like hands on with me. So I was like, okay, I just need to get through the day. And I didn't want to take that year off that I had to take off. But I feel like doing that, it allowed me to kind of like really get better with my skill and like my thought process, critical thinking, all of those things. So I feel like, yes, it made me more adaptable and it really allowed me to see the things that I needed to work on myself, although I had those different barriers that, were put before me.
Right.
So,
And would you say for the MPTE? Because when did you take the MPTE?
this past
Okay.
January.
I know a lot was going on, but do you honestly feel like your undergrad gave you the right preparation for it, or do you feel like a lot of it was left up to you through Final Frontier and different outsourced material?
I would say like study wise or like habits of being organized with like studying and like really dedicating my time. That aspect, yes, because I kind of started off as like an okay student when I got to FAM, and then I became like a 4.0 student because I had to really apply myself.
Sheesh.
So
That's good. That's good.
I really had to really do a 180.
Yeah.
But as far as like content, no, because even with the GRE, like getting into PT school, we didn't really know like how to study and the necessary steps to take. So I was kind of like buying things like to study, like different avenues that I could take, but it really didn't help. And my advisor even admitted that she figured, okay, well, you guys have the grades, you should be able to take the test, but it's kind of like a different way of thinking, a different way of processing. So I would say no for like preparing for the NPT overall.
Okay. And your undergrad experience, okay, seemed like it was a little smoother than your graduate
Mhm.
experience. So, with going to Howard, right? And a lot of us,
Mhm.
hindsight is 2020, so it is what it is. What? And this is a little bit, off, but what about the DMV area? Because when I left Hampton, I moved to Leesburg, Virginia, and I was about 45 minutes outside of DC. So I know what attracted me to that area, at least living on the outskirts of it, right? But what attracted you to that area to where it's like, yeah, this is where I'm gonna apply, you know?
Mhm.
Is it the city or is it
Um,
just the people or what was it?
well, some with the city because I'm a city girl, being
City girl, what's up?
from
No, she not a city girl like that.
like that. But yeah, I like the
All right.
city environment, and then um,
Okay.
the people. Like I didn't realize how diverse it was until I got
Mhm.
there. But I remember I went on a family reunion in Virginia Beach, and then my dad. We kind of like drove through like the DC
Okay.
area, and I was just like amazed with like the city, like how it's set up, and like just the different things that you see just by walking down the street or even driving. Like, so I think that's kind of what attracted me to like just the city life and the people and things like that. And then I figured because it was an HBCU there, and it still would carry on the HBCU legacy.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
It's now I'll say this. Do you feel my HBCU experience was a little bit different. I was at a small Christian. I don't know if you ever heard the term. It's called Seventh Day Adventist. It's a religion.
Hmm.
SDA, very very strict school. 1900 to 2000 kids tops. That
Oh
we
wow.
had curfews unless you were living off campus. No co-ed dorms. Not. I mean, so they experienced no fraternity, sorority. All that was banned, unless you went to Alabama A&M across the street and pledged, or you went to UAH where you could pledge at one of the white fraternities if you want to say, not the historically black ones. But
Hmm.
did you feel like the experience being at a HBCU was the same undergrad as in grad school, or did you feel like grad school is just a totally different world?
No, grad school is.
Yeah.
I had a lot of classmates that came from PWIs and they were expecting to get that
Yep.
same experience. You kind of, because you have to be focused
Yep.
with what you're doing doctorate. So when you're in undergrad, you have time to play.
Mm-hmm.
And we would kind of make the best of it with homecoming, but I had already done that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like, well, I'm just here to, get my work
Yeah.
and leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a different
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. So that was part of my thing. I'm going to, because for me it was like going to Hampton. It was like, oh, this is the first time I'm going to a legitimate HBCU, one of the
Hmm.
bigger ones. You hear Hampton, Howard. You hear about Winston Salem, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be at a, and then it's like, yo, you are in a whole, forget about it. You're in a whole different world.
Yeah.
Um, so it is a lot different, but that's interesting. So what do you see yourself, or how do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing, or your life looking like in the next 7 years?
Um, I really want to be able to start my own business
Mm,
and been building a lot of connections with like doctors, nurses, or hospitals, things like that, to kind of get my business off the ground. I really want to have like my OCS. I kind of want to work more in the athletic population, like work with the community and people who are less fortunate. Because I don't want to just be secluded to one population because there's so many people that need our services.
hmm.
So mix between like the athletic population and like the underserved. Um, and
You said OCS.
yeah, it's
What
like
what what certification?
sports certification. So it's basically like you have the tools to work with athletes or the athletic pop.
Okay, got you.
So yeah, so I would say business, getting sports certifications,
Mm,
and really getting my way into the community and working with people who really can't, who aren't accessible to our services and things
right,
like that.
right, good. And when you say now, oh, I'm drawing a blank here. What was I? I was gonna say something. Anyway, we'll move on from that. Oh, when you say business, are you talking about an outpatient? Because I've met teachers who actually have done contracting, where they contract their service. Like one of my professors at the University of St. Augustine, she trained at a CrossFit gym,
Mm,
and she was a contractor. So it's funny. I had a professor at Hampton that were like, "Oh, we love CrossFitters because they bring us a lot of business. You know, they're
mm,
always snapping stuff up, right?"
mm,
But anyway, so this lady, it was funny because when I went to University of St. Augustine, I had she was like a assistant professor that trained at CrossFit, but she also had like a small business in there, and she had like clients that she would do. Do you see yourself doing something kind of niche like that, or is it something you just want to do a general physical therapy clinic?
I
Uh,
would like to work on gyms. I actually go to like a performing arts gym
mm-hmm,
here in Atlanta, and we do a lot. So it's a lot of like hit training, a lot of bouncing, moving around and
mm-hmm,
stuff. So I would definitely like to be in contract with them, but I also would want to still brand myself. I kind of want to do more cash based just
yep,
because in companies it's just a lot to deal with and
yeah.
like the middleman and kind of do your own thing. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
Okay. And that's something I'm actually interested in. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. With you being in Atlanta, of course, there are a lot of black professionals, young black professionals there. So I'm sure the connections that you can get are probably crazy. You're working at an outpatient orthopedic center right now, but what is? And I know you're just like this is her first day of work, guys. So it's nice to have her. She's just going hitting her orientation today, and I got her on that first day. So this is good. But what what path do you see yourself taking when it comes to just networking and actually building out the practice? Do you want to stay in the Atlanta area? Do you want to scale it, franchise? You know, how do you see that looking?
I definitely would want to franchise. I mean, I still want to go back to the DMV
Oh,
area.
oh,
Um,
she didn't get
yeah.
enough of that. Okay.
That or like I don't have any relatives there, but I wanted to go to Texas as
Okay.
well. So it's kind of like on the other side. But even if it was like contract work to kind of just do travel like for a year, live there, or even go back to DMV and do something like that for a year, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Got you. Got you. Okay, good. So, what would you say going through PT school, right? You know, your journey was a challenge. You know, you said that you
Mm,
had definitely had some hurdles that were out of your control, which a lot of us, you know, we realize that there's a lot more than just working hard. You know, there are things that are
mhm.
out of your control. You know, when you're in a work environment, there is politics and, you know, different things that we maybe are not as prepped for, right? But what would you say in your opinion someone's going through PT school, some of the three top attributes a person can have in order to be successful in an environment like a physical therapy?
Um, I would say you really have to be passionate, and not just for like, if you're treating, but really if this is something that you want to do, because life is gonna hit you. It may not be as rough, but you really want to keep that passion, because I feel like I lost it going through
Mm.
PT school. So I really had to, like, if I knowing what I know now, like maybe even doing affirmations or something like that to keep that same passion and fire. Um, what else? Um, I would say be adaptable, because you may go in saying, "Oh, I want to be this kind of therapist, or I want to be that kind of therapist," and some of your professors or faculty, they may challenge you to do something that is completely out of your comfort zone. So you just really have to be able to be adaptable with whatever comes at you, whether it be obstacles or things that you may not want to do, you have to do for the moment. Um, and then what else? Um, I don't know.
I can help you out. Am I?
Yeah,
So this is funny. This happened with Sierra as well. She gave
yeah,
two and she was like, I don't know. You give it another one. I
yeah.
got you. I got you. I'll take the alley. But all right. So in hers, I said stubborn. But that was a little bit more for like I guess business. In my case, I had to be because like I said, this is my third PT school, so it's like I'm gonna finish this. But I would say you said adaptable. I would say personally, one of the things I found that helps out is being creative. One thing when I got to
Mm,
PT school, because I've taken so many L's, I've just learned that you cannot juxtapose yourself to other people. And
mm,
something you could be looking dead in someone's face and they're telling you this is how to do something and they're getting A's with it. And you try that exact same thing and it don't work for you, right? Like, even if you look at the platform and stuff like that, like my mind just works in, I had to accept this, right? It works in a very kind of like weird way, right? So
mm,
I had to realize that maybe the conventional methods of learning, I like to see things. I like color. I like creativity, So I use a lot of visual tools, things like well, Anki. I don't know if you've heard of the Anki app,
no,
using of course a lot of YouTube, using KenHub. I'm
mm,
sure you've heard of KenHub, for anatomy and things like that. So being creative, because the reality of it is there's no one size fits all approach in physical therapy when you're going through school. And then also in life, I'm starting to realize this because not everything is going to work for everybody. Not everything is going to work for everybody. You have to be okay with that because you'll see people doing things, and it's tough, man, because you'll look at someone and be like, yo, I remember, well, this is a little off topic, but I had a girl literally say to me, like, it was at Hampton. I won't say her name, but she was just like, "Why don't you get this?" Like, and I mean, I'm
mm,
starting to feel like, don't make me feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
yeah,
I was like, "You're doing this, and this is how you got it." And she was one of those. She just got stuff. I mean, she was one of those girls. Look at it, one, two, and then she was on to the next thing, right? And I had to realize that maybe because I can't look at something on a piece of paper with words, okay, I'm not dumb, you know what I'm saying? But if I see it in a video or if I see it in some creative type form or if I can make it into something more creative, then it could be something that sticks with me and I'm able to actually take it now and apply it a little bit better versus the person who's just using that rote memorization. So juxtaposing yourself to people in PT school and in life is a very good way to be unhappy, because I thought 2018, I thought by the time I was 28, right, which I'm 28 right now, I'm like, I'm going to be doctor. I want to call myself doctor in my 20s,
mm,
and I
right.
will be 31 when I call myself doctor. So it's all good. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it is, it is what it is in my journey. I've collected a lot of L's, but it's also a lot of information that I've gleaned, and then I'm able to talk on stuff about this with you on channels like this, and I got doctors sitting in front of me. There you go.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, that's good. So, what would you say? And this is the last question. What would you say your overall thoughts are on? Like you're out now, right? And what would you say your overall thought? Like, do you feel like it was as rewarding? Do you, if you were to go back and you had to, maybe not at the same school, but if you had to do the process again to get the same outcomes, like I know you're just starting to work today, but do you feel like
Hmm.
this whole thing was really like something that was rewarding and what you wanted to ultimately do?
I would say so. Kind of going back to like when I was studying for the
Mm-hmm.
NPTE, all the hours, and then when you finally get to the testing center, it's almost like you're walking in a child, and once you get done with the test, you're like an adult because you kind of had a rite of
Mm,
passage, and finally landing a job in like the career that you want. It's kind of like, okay, it's a full circle because I never thought that I would get here, or it
mm,
seemed like forever and a day. So I would definitely say that it is rewarding because all the things that I've gone through to finally get here is like, okay, I can kind of, relax for a bit and say like, okay, well, I did that. I accomplished something that I've always wanted. So
good, good. All right. Well, with that said, I won't keep you too long. I know you got work in the morning and you got stuff to do. So I'm gonna give you the last word. And before we do that, anybody who's watching and who has someone interested in this career field, there's not a lot of us minorities in the career. I mean, it was like 3 to 5% or something. If you look at, the the statistics. So if you have people that or might be interested, just share it with them. And also, I put Brittany's information in the bottom, so I have your Instagram plug there. And if they have any questions, I'm sure they can reach out to you. Part of this is building like somewhat of a database, so we can see people like ourselves, right? Because if you look at the
mhm.
interview, this is the seventh interview, and I just keep on wanting to go from here. So there's can be like people can reach out and pay it forward. So when you're coming the when you're coming to into the process, the
Mhm.
it's not as daunting, because you're getting to hear
Yeah,
people talk about it online. It's still going to be what it is when you get there. I mean, you can't
yeah,
simulate that, but so Brittany's information is going to be in the bottom, and I want anybody who just share the video, like it, and reach out to her. But any last thoughts? I'm going to give you the last word, and then we'll get you out of here. Thank you for your time as well.
yes. Well, I just wanted to say anybody who is interested in PT school, if you're going through the process, just never give up because you never know when, it's going to be your turn to go through that process. And even if you have like naysayers or people that are telling you you can't do it, just keep pushing. It may be a little bit longer than what you expect, but it'll, you'll have your time. You'll have your time to really say, I completed this, I did this. So just keep going and keep striving for whatever it is that you want.
Gotcha. All right, guys, that is Dr. Brittany Gaston, right? Did I pronounce that right? All right, great.
Yes.
Episode 7. We are signing out. Thank you so much again. Until the next time, guys. Peace.